It's 3:01. I'll call the meeting to order. First order of business on the agenda is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion, please? Thank you. In a second. Any adds, subtracts, multiplies, divides?
So adds, were we going to discuss the strategic priority, or is that?
That is a CSC matter.
It's enclosed.
Really? Or strategic?
Just continuing on from.
It was previously enclosed.
It hasn't
Is it
been
enclosed
released yet.
here?
Yeah, it's in that closed.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so motions on the table. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next on the agenda, public participation. Next on the agenda, approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 5th. I have nothing. Anybody else?
I have nothing.
Okay, so a motion to approve, please, and a second. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you. And business arising, action items report, page 7. The first is staff to investigate with input from the auditor setting the fire department up as a separate fund like water and sewer.
Yes.
Anything to report?
Not yet. The partner, Bill Cox, is in on Friday, and I will talk to him about it on Friday.
Approach it with him then. Great, thank you. Item 2, staff to review the idea of having more detail in the council meeting minutes or possibly insert timestamps in the minutes in correlation with the recording of the meeting.
We're doing that test today. So we're gonna try some testing out of ideas.
Write down 302.
So the idea is that Shauna, when she has a moment, a spare moment, she'll make a note and then come back and check it later. It won't necessarily be at a designated time in the agenda. It's just we'll have spot checks here and there and create. We'll try and create timestamps. We'll see what happens.
At the risk of being accused of overly detailed participation, I would say every time we change to a new item, we write down the time next to it in the minutes.
Well, we discussed that, and for various reasons that may not work. Too many things can be happening at any given point to have that onus of having a timestamp at every new section of the meeting. We'll first of all, let's see if how the time actually lines up, because previously it didn't line up. So we'll do some testing.
Okay, good. I'll do the same every time I change as the chair. April 5th, staff to respond to Mr. Ando's request for information regarding the budget of Public Works Manager remuneration.
I will do that this week. I apologize. It fell off the table with all my year-end stuff.
Fine, you've got a sense of what it is that's under request?
Yes, so basically we cannot tell him a specific salary in the budget, but I can direct him to this year's SOFI, June 30th, and it's a reasonable assumption that that would have been used, the criteria for preparing the 2016 budget.
Yeah. I suppose we do have to, I mean, I seem to remember saying at the time that was, that's a personnel issue. We were obviously not at liberty to disclose salaries.
Exactly.
I think what he's actually seeking comfort on is that
A reduced cost, but
Yeah,
that's not
there's a budgeted
realistic.
number.
It's not realistic, Carl, because base for one of our employees at 76 grand. We add their on-call and we add their overtime, of which is management exclusive. I mean,
well, there's no overtime for Public Works Manager. But okay, do what you need to do there, Pam, to
I
respond
think
to
his
the
question was, how much do we have budgeted for the Public Works Manager? And I cannot answer that question, but as an alternative, I can say you can look at the SOFI to see what the 2015 actual was.
Yeah, but the point is he's seeking comfort that the next Public Works Manager will not be compensated at the same levels as the old Public Works Manager. But that's not within his purview to request. Okay, so you may want to say that, as best you can answer is referring to the SOFI, but there's no further information that can be provided.
No, exactly.
Okay, good. Last item, number 4, staff to include a Public Works staff allocation of time pie graph to the annual report.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Do that. We'll keep that there.
sub judice. That's the term I want. 1506. Lions Bay Historical Society Community Hall plaque, unfinished business, page 9. What's the story here?
we brought that back for us.
We referred it back to this committee, okay? So we know the issues. What's the thinking?
I think the thinking I don't know this for a fact, but I believe the Historical Society is trying to honor the former mayor, period. Community center is a venue. For myself, I think as we opined last time that a plaque, whether it's this one or something similar to that, beside the one here, doesn't resonate with me. I could see a recognition format in here somewhere. I could see a recognition format in the administrative building somewhere. And I think there's also things that council might do, which we will probably talk about later.
Yep.
I concur with Ron's points of view. I would want to change the wording. It just keeps coming back. I would remove visionary dedication and simply replace it with work, sort of the result of the work of mayor and councillors. Because essentially it was the wrong vision. We spent an awful lot of money planning something else and we ended up with a rebuild. So it's not visionary in my point of view.
It also doesn't recognize the CAO's hard work to bring the project home, and dare I say he was quite visionary.
Yes.
And brought it home. And so to me, I see less about the building than I see about honoring the individual.
Well, for me, the current sign doesn't really reflect what's happened, what has happened. So a sign like that would rectify that, and maybe with a change in wording, I don't see why we can't sort of put a little plaque out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the wording change, although I'm happy to just drop the word visionary. I'm fine with dedication, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, my concern would be to put it out there. This is in no way compatible with that sign. It will just look like a complete afterthought tacked on band-aided solution. I'm happy to put this front and center of the fireplace anywhere even prominent, because I agree that that the work needs to be acknowledged. I fully agree with Fred that many would debate just how visionary it was to use $500,000 of our savings I even hesitate to use the word renovate, to work on the hall. We have no extra storage, we have some bathrooms, and I think there's some seismic work that may or may not pass muster. So I'm happy to recommend to council that we approve this with wording that we can decide. I'm happy with whatever people decide, seeing as you're the two councillors involved the most of all, but not out there, in here, somewhere good.
Might I suggest that because we're going to talk about some related issues later on, that we maybe just hold this until that time?
Within this meeting or the council meeting?
I think we're going in camera today.
Okay, so you want to defer it to in-camera
Yeah.
discussion?
Yep.
That's fine, so if you'll move that in some second, thanks. Any further discussion? So the motion is to defer further discussion on this one to in-camera due to, what's the reason? Privacy? That's not a community charter reason. Personnel?
I'll have it by the end here.
Okay, thanks. Reason to be stipulated. All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Good, thank you, Ron. 1510, reports, 7A, staff. Pam, are you up?
No, I think mine's under new business.
Yes, it is. Staff reports. Peter?
Sorry?
I think it's all in, I see that you have IRR. Is that coming now? No, those are under new business too.
Will that be under new business?
Okay, so nothing for staff, nothing for mayor, council, committees? Fred, anything to tell us about the IC?
I've got something for tonight,
Yeah,
if that would work.
yeah,
Tree committee's all over tonight.
yeah. Community committee has not yet met, right?
No,
Okay. Why?
because we don't have a terms of reference.
Really?
We had one, but I don't think it works. So who comes up with the terms of reference?
The chair of the committee.
Okay, then I'll bring it forward what we have.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Because
not
I don't
like
think
we don't have anything to do, but
Because I was thinking instead of that, then the time would be spent to perhaps have a communication, I don't know, something that produces something.
yeah, sure. The one committee that I'm chair of is the Policy and Bylaw Review Committee, and we deferred the last meeting for some good reason that I can't remember. We deferred yesterday's meeting due to my personal need to attend another board meeting. And we're going to miss the next one as well because I'll be out of the country. So the Policy and Bylaw Review Committee is, there's nothing pressing facing us, although we do have some work that we could very profitably be looking at. So it's all due to my schedule that we haven't actually met. So I can only apologize for that. Okay, so we'll move on to new business, first being Pam, being up.
This is the 5-year financial plan, and it's on table. It should be in front of you, plus it was emailed out yesterday. Essentially, it was just an opportunity for me to explain. This is coming to first and second reading tonight. It's based on the 2016 budget that Council approved at the last meeting. And given kind of the lack of information we have because of the delay in the IMP, and the Infrastructure Committee and Mayor and Council have yet to make a recommendation on what projects they see happening in the next 5 years, I basically started with the 2016 budget. I removed the supplementals and the capital to form sort of a base budget, and then I just added in basic capital maintenance that we know we have to do, and I made certain assumptions. The main one being, because they were not locked into this was just to give us something that we could analyze, 8% tax increase from 2017 to 2020.
Each year.
Each year. An 8% increase in water and a 3% increase in sewer. So with those assumptions, if you go to Schedule A, the first page, so it should be on your page 3 of this, you can see if you go down to the bottom, this results in a transfer to reserves of $470,000 in 2017 and increasing up to $980,000 in 2020. Now that does seem like a big number. However, you have to understand there's no supplementals and no capital in here. So to keep it in perspective, in 2015, Council approved additional $306,000 of capital and supplementals, and in the 2016 year, there was $344,000 for the 3 funds. So a big chunk of that would just go to the regular supplementals. So the purpose of this is to look at this number, and then once we get the Infrastructure Committee's recommendations and Mayor and Council on what projects they want to see, to compare it to this number with these assumptions. And then, as I discussed, we could do a budget amendment if you wanted to start some of the projects right away, or we could just keep it in mind for the 2017 budget, but determining how we would fund. So I don't think this will be enough money in the next couple of years to fund some of the things coming from the infrastructure plan. So our alternatives are we can increase the tax rate from the 8%, or a combination of any of these suggestions. We could draw from reserves, because we're not drawing anything from reserves here. For example, we have the gas tax money, which in 2017 will be $150,000. We could draw from that. We could do short-term borrowing.
Why will it be?
Which is we get 54,000. So in
that's 3 years
yeah,
worth.
It's
Okay.
3 years worth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's increasing about 54,000 a year. So essentially, it was just I based this on the information I know as of this time. But like I say, because we didn't have the infrastructure plan. But we do have the possibility of doing a budget amendment once the recommendations come from Mayor and Council through the Infrastructure Committee as to what projects they want. And then we can look at a variety of ways of funding. But with those tax rates that I have set out in the assumption, you're not locked into those tax rates. This is purely just for the 5-year plan. You can see how much money we have going to reserves, which would be used for the supplementals and the capital, and the capital coming from the Infrastructure Master Plan. So this is, like I said, this was just a chance for me to give you the background of what assumptions I've used to do this based on, we don't have full information at this time that goes to first and second reading tonight.
Okay. Thanks, Pam. Council? Did I say committee members?
I don't think Pam had anywhere to go here. If you plug the arbitrarily pull supplementals out of the air, it's pie in the sky. So it takes from her realistic number, which is to transfer to reserves, which is a reality number, to a hokey number, in my view. And also, to repeat what she says, it doesn't anticipate projects because projects haven't come to fruition in terms of grants or cost or timing yet. So we're kind of, it's a chicken and egg here. I would think that, I would hope that this would probably be almost the last year that we're going to be in this position, so that we're going to be quite plowing into this, I would guess by the fall, so that we would know by the next winter where we would be and actually more accurately model and project for a strong 3 years, which would include debt and borrowing, opportunity, percentage of grant recipient, and things like that, and also the number. We would come back to the supplemental number being a hokey number still, but if you wanted to do case A or case B or both, then that's where you'd probably go. So bottom line here, I think Pam's got nowhere else to go.
Okay. Fred, Helen?
Well, sorry.
No problem.
Well, I'm sorry, I get excited when I see these big numbers going into reserves. But with the supplementals out, and we see that we are putting money into reserves, on one hand, we would be, and on the other hand, when you look at all the projects that are needing doing, that even with 1/3 funding, we could blow through all this in the 5 years easily. So I'm sort of kind of, first time I've looked at this, I'm kind of wondering about it, that what it speaks to me is we just have too many supplementals year by year, and we're struggling with our ability to pay for the important things of our critical infrastructure. So somehow, the message I get from here is if we want to maintain the community in at least as good a condition, if not improve the infrastructure well-being of it, we're going to have to be drawing down on this stuff and not, and how would I put this, disciplining ourselves to just chuck most of the supplementals. We can't afford the triples. I think, and not to get theatrical about the whole thing, but all we need is one good disaster, and you can throw away every one of the supplementals. We'll be in survival mode. So the message here is we can do this to avoid being in dire straits, and that's the message I get out of it.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Helen?
Well, not knowing, because this doesn't have supplementals or capex, to me, it doesn't really tell us very much at all. We could put 8%, we could put 10%, we could put 20%.
Well, it shows the absolute best case scenario.
It shows the absolute, we do nothing.
We do nothing.
Yes, and with regards to supplemental, I think our supplemental is bare bone as it is. It's not really any.
I agree. I'd like to know what you consider frills in this year's budget.
It's really, unless we're talking about 1,000 for a map or something, if you consider that a frill, right? Otherwise, I think we're really down to.
Well, it's $250,000 in supplementals.
But they're stuff that we actually.
Yeah, the term supplementals doesn't mean that it's unnecessary. Supplementals means it's not in the base budget.
Yes,
that's all.
I think your commentary in the e-post that, I too wonder whether we went too deep in some of this stuff because it pushes it to another year. I mean, I understand where Fred's going with this too. I mean, it goes back to the key problem of the only way to grow revenue is to grow revenue or to sell something or to borrow.
Yeah, well, there's a supplemental question. I don't want to use that term. There's another question that we don't have the answers to today, and that's the prudent level of reserves to be maintained. In a real disaster, other funding comes into play. We don't have to pay for everything, but we don't know what that number is. I know that one of the biggest draws in our reserves recently was a $400,000 road collapse, Calvin Grove Way. That was self-funded. So that would seem to indicate that we need at least $400,000 in the savings account. But this is a totally hypothetical plan because it doesn't include, in some cases, absolutely necessary stuff like hydrant replacement or.
The hydrant replacement is there.
That's
what
a budget.
I have the
bad
base.
Example. Yeah.
But no, just to confirm that point, I have a minimum of what we call capital maintenance. We know there's a certain amount the fire needs every year, there's a certain amount the public works, just to maintain, and I have that in there. But like I agree that, further to Councillor Bain's point, this number is artificial, the transfer to reserves. It's just that I felt it would just be artificial for me to decide, should I just slot in supplementals? I thought it was more informative to show you a number going to reserves. I mean, we know that number's not going to go to reserves because when we do the 2017 budget, there will be supplementals. I've given you what the average has been the last couple of years. Plus, we'll have the infrastructure master plan on top of that with recommendations to do a certain amount of capital. And that's why we almost may be in a position to have to do a what's called a budget amendment later in the year if you do decide that at the end of the year there's some capital that you do want to expend. So I thought this was just,
This is
it's
the best
simpler,
of,
but it's
yeah.
the best of presenting to council. With an 8% tax rate, this is how much money you would have, but then there's a whole list of things that we will have to use that money for.
There are a lot of unknowns yet. I don't know if I wouldn't prefer to see this being brought down to zero in every case, zero transfers to or from reserves. But, for example, we don't know what federal infrastructure funding is going to be going forward in the next 2 years. I hear very promising rumors that they fully expect to be funding, even at our local government level, 50% grants, rather than the conventional 33% grants. We read it in the newspaper. Probably means it's not true, right?
Need one example.
Yeah. Well, the regional funding that they're doing for TransLink, that is going to be at 50%. With the province stumping up another third, and the remaining 17 being supplied by the local. But do we model that? The only question I have for you, well, there's two actually. Where is this average capex number that you just mentioned?
Well, I just took the supplemental capital that we'd had this year, and then I went back and looked at the 2015 budget.
Where is that?
Oh, it's not on here anywhere.
Sign,
It's just,
left-hand side there.
it's just.
What is the number?
It was 344,000 in 2016, the total of the capital and the supplementals we added to the budget. And
That's in this number, this
yeah,
78,000 from
it's in
reserves.
above the line,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
In the 2016 column.
Yeah.
And then in 2015, it was about 306,000. I just really wanted to provide council with a sense of what, my 2 years since I've been here, fairly frugal years, that's what we've drawn. We haven't done a lot of capital. So we have the unknown of the infrastructure master plan, which is probably the biggest one. What the requirements, what type of available grants there will be, so we could forecast those in. And when we, forthcoming in the summer, when we analyze reserves and determine a comfort level for council, these are all things that will guide us at least to the 2017 budget. But if the infrastructure master plan recommendations are that there's something, the infrastructure committee and mayor and council's recommendations for the IMP are there's a couple of urgent things they want, we can do a budget amendment to accommodate that.
Yeah, so my only real question now is, would we not prefer to have those kinds of expenditures in here so that we can proceed in time, because they're covered by an approved budget, albeit it's a 2017 budget?
Well, that's why we would have to do a budget amendment, because I'm guided by statutory requirement that by May 15th we have to have an adopted budget. And I don't think there's time to properly analyze, the infrastructure committee. I could put artificial numbers in here, but I think Councillor McLaughlin spoke to it well, that it would just be me guessing. And I think it's almost clearer to just say, this is what we have to work with, this reserve line. And anything...
Page 3 is the only piece of reality in the whole thing.
Anything
because
above...
we get to set the rate.
Anything above that, we know we'd either have to do borrowing, we have to draw from reserves, we have to get grant funding, probably a combination of all three.
It's going to be a combination. The question
and
is...
tweak the tax.
Yeah, the one fundamental we need to nail down is what is a prudent level of reserves. That gives us some understanding of what sort of draws from reserves we have available to us. The rest is going to have to be grant funded, and or loan funded. And so we know what the grants are. We'll probably have to stump up the third, conservatively.
And to get the grant funding and to get the short-term borrowing, we do require it to be seen in the 5-year plan. So that's why this is really, I think, the best reflection of what I know now to meet the May 15th deadline. But we can do a budget amendment when we get more information.
I think, too, the piece here is not just on the expense side, but on the absolute top grand total. I mean, it was 12% through 16, 8%, so you compound this out to the 5th year. If I'm some of the residents I'm looking at now, we're talking about a 60% annualized increase.
Yes.
It's a very big number. So I think our modeling needs to be at the top end as well as the bottom end here, too.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So Africa, maybe you mentioned it earlier. under the capital expenditure, you projected 70,000 for 2017 to.
Yes.
What is that?
That's just the basic capital maintenance that we need every
Oh,
year.
that's
So
the-
it's like the 30,000 that they need every year in fire.
So that's not under operation.
Suppose it's
No,
the
it is
functions
capital,
line.
but it's just the basic capital. There's no projects in there that would come from the IMP. And it is, as you can see, an artificially low number. It was just, I felt the best way to do this was reflect what we know now, to meet our statutory deadline of May 15th to file this with the ministry. But we can change it. And you're not locked into these 2017 to 20 numbers. In 2017, we'll be doing a new budget. There's just a lot of information coming at us in the next couple of months, and we can't hold off adopting our budget until then.
What is
so-
the actual point of a 5-year plan, if it is always just a plug?
It's not really a plug. Like if we had had this information, it's a long-term planning tool, and it sort of forces municipalities to do that. But the other reason it is municipalities tend to adopt, like we're adopting our 2016 budget now. So if we didn't have a 5-year plan, we legally couldn't spend this year. So essentially, for the first few months of 2017, by having this 2017 column, it allows you to actually pay your staff and continue functioning, because it is actually...
Yeah, that is my concern about the budget process, is that we seem to do not very much in terms of substantive spend in the first 4, 5, 6 months of each year, because we haven't really decided it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'd actually like to be discussing what we're going to be doing in 2017.
This would be one of my things I'm going to talk about later on financial modeling, which should start this fall, leading to a strong 3-year model budget
Yeah.
with a supplemental mid-year kind of thing.
Okay, well, I suppose the question before us is do we like this presentation, or accede to this, or accept this presentation, or the other one is to show totally hypothetical loan proceeds, grant proceeds, and spend that would be complete guess right now. IMP notwithstanding, we have a list of projects. We know what they are, and they've even been prioritized for us by the consultant. Whether that's what they were supposed to do is another question. Remind me, loan proceeds would go above the line into the revenue line
Yes.
in this presentation.
In the presentation of per PSAB, yes.
Yeah,
loan
this is
proceeds
sort of a
are
cash
actually-
flow, really, isn't it?
Unlike the private sector,
Yeah.
that loan proceeds are considered revenue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so that's, I think I see sufficient nods around the table to say that this is adequate for now. I would exhort Pam to be well prepared to be doing a fall budget amendment once we know more or less where we're
absolutely.
going. And
Absolutely.
I think by that time we'll also know what the story is with grants.
Yes. Like I say, we will actually, I'd want to do it anyway, but it will also be a requirement. It's like a chicken egg as well. In order to get the loan funding, you actually have to show that you have the loan funding in your 5-year plan to show that you can afford the repayments. I mean, that's the purpose of it, is that it's not just the revenue, it's proving that you have sufficient tax base for the repayments for the loan.
Okay, good. Well, I'll settle for the egg. The chicken can come later.
Sitting at the top of the table, how are you with an 8% compounded? I mean,
Totally
I realize
hypothetical.
It's just a plug, but I mean.
Yeah, it's a plug.
Meet the public here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, in terms of presentation, we see the net result on the bottom line here, the transfer to reserves. That would be the money that we would have to spend. In an ideal world, looking at 2020, for example, best part of $1 million, that means we could do a $3 million project
In-house.
without any loan
But
proceeds.
that's only to say that we won't be doing anything from 2017 to 2019.
No, that's not cumulative, that's annual. That is
No,
the,
but there's no supplementals or
spending
anything
in
in here,
between.
so,
yeah,
yes.
it's 3 million total spend. Not all of it would be grant, 1/3 fundable, sure. To answer the question, I don't
I
know.
mean, guess who's getting the first phone call?
You, not
You
me.
know.
No, I think it'd be you.
So what is from the desk of the mayor thing, we think? That-
Oh, that's changing, by the way. Yeah, I think I can speak to the fact that, yes, we are attempting to catch up from many budgets of under revenue. That's totally hypothetical. It may even be too much. So I guess, well, that's a good point. Would we prefer
Well,
to see
that's
this
the
presented?
question. I mean, it is,
It's a different number.
I don't worry about politics, but is it, let's use West Vancouver's number, their number's what, 7.5, 8? So it happens
Yeah.
to be 8.
And they also have this hypothetical
Well, that's the 5 points.
capital
going into
levy
this
number.
thing. So their number is 8.
I mean, this is now just semantics and optics. I mean, do we
Yeah.
want to actually go for something that states it's a capital levy?
Is really the purpose of my question.
What do you think, Pam?
Um,
As a separate line item to taxation.
I think we can explain in the presentation, and we know that in 2017 we were doing a separate budget with the information. I don't think people would look at this and think, oh, they're suggesting we have an 8%. This is sort of the scenario that shows us this is how much we have in reserves. And I think it's sort of a powerful message because hand in hand with the inputs coming, we know there's large ticket items in there. It's sort of a scenario is this is what we would have to tax to have money in reserves to do these projects, but there are other alternatives that we'll be addressing.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. You've got to address exactly what the nature of this is to the two people that showed up to our 5-year plan meeting.
Which is 2 more than last year.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah, that would be 2 more than last year. But I think, but on the other hand, I think it behooves us to communicate this out in a way that's believable, understandable, and graspable. I'm adamant that we will explain this in the best way possible. There's no point in hiding this.
No.
It's everybody's money.
And
So,
rightly or wrongly, very little attention is paid to the 4 years in the 5-year plan.
Okay,
I mean,
well,
we've
we've discussed that.
communicated 2016, and that's what people
yeah.
are interested in.
What did we present out last year? Was it 8% or was it? I don't remember.
I think it was 5%.
Was it
wasn't
I
five?
can't remember. It might have been 5
I
across
think
the
it's
board.
5.
7.5 and 5, 5, 5.
Would you prefer to see 5?
Because as you say, it doesn't really make a difference
Yeah.
because we said 5 and went to
But,
12.
Yeah.
Now we say 8.
I think that's the important
Yeah.
message to stress in the presentation, is just that it's a placeholder to show you under that scenario, this is the
But
money
it
we're
does
getting.
give a colour of
And,
council's future intentions.
It does.
Do we give a nod on that 8, or would we prefer to see a number like 4?
yeah, regardless of what we prefer, reality is going to kick
Oh,
in.
that's a whole
In
different
reality,
situation.
it'd be more towards 8, right?
Possibly. On the other hand, I don't want to use any smoke and mirrors. I'm happy showing 8, but I'm very flexible in terms of the optics.
Well, it's better to say 8 and then say next year comes by and we can do it for 7. That's a good news story. Rather than say, oops, we goofed, let's go to 10 again, or 12.
Well, there'll be no goofing. We need every penny. And I'm still waiting to hear what the fluff was.
But the what?
What the fluff was.
Supplemental fluff,
The supplemental fluff.
because I got nothing.
No, I can't go line by line on all this stuff, but I look, just for example, we talked about the funding for internal organizations. We talked about, I think it was your suggestion, we encourage them to get status that they can get grant funding on their own. To me, that is a positive step in the right direction. It takes the onus off of the municipality to fund all these good services when they should really be doing it themselves, because you can only pick the same pocket so many times without somebody complaining.
Well, I mean, I only have to mention, we played baseball in North Van on Sunday. Pristine fields, electronic scoreboards, mowed. It looked like the top of a pool table compared to West Van and Lions Bay. Our municipal spend on community amenities is appalling. Now, West Van has a political reason to do that because most of the taxpayers don't very much care about sports fields anymore. Lions Bay doesn't have that excuse. I would far rather see $10,000 going towards renovating a trail or washroom, something that can actually be used by the community. So, I guess my point is, we don't have enough money yet.
Well, that's the key point, is that we don't have the cash flow necessary to fund things like a North End field or anything else like that. We have too small of a population to fund a lot of stuff. And I know I've been harping on this lately, that these people come in with their $1 million homes that they're buying now. They're expecting the services of the North Shore that we cannot provide.
And now it's $2 million homes.
Right, it's getting worse.
Well, if we'll be able to afford it when we're putting our taxes up 60% over 5 years.
You think we will?
Well, we afford more of it anyway.
Yeah, we'll afford more because, it would between, well, I know, that I'm being facetious.
Well, I mean, that's a council priority thing that we need to understand what it is that we want to spend our taxpayers' resources on.
For me on this, I've raised the question just from a cosmetic standpoint,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
depending is, I'm fine with the 8, knowing that it's a plug and that it's, if we reduce the number, then the bottom plug is reduced, so,
Fine. Okay, everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Before we decide, I'd like to see if Peter has, you've looked at this, and what is your recommendation?
I agree with the methodology that the CFO has used because, as stated, it's the only reality that is presently available to us, and that as we have in hand what priorities are for 2017 and beyond, they can be plugged in, whether it's to an amended budget this year or preferably for next year.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Any value in going through the individual departments? They all just roll up into the front sheet.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. It's just a requirement to show that.
Yeah,
in the charter,
I mean, there's
and
no
then it's
particular
the key.
breakdown,
Yeah.
scary things, because there's no capex in
Yeah.
subsequent years, and we know 2016.
No, exactly.
I still have nightmares. Okay, good, thanks Pam, we'll move on. So this will go to council tonight with a recommendation to accept as is. Great, thank you. And we'll move on to 8B, IRRs, page 11. 1537.
Pardon?
Is this a reprint?
Yeah, it's just easier to read.
Thank you. Did you say a senior's read?
For seniors to read.
I forgot my glasses, so more for me than anyone else, I think.
We didn't take any copies of them? Oh, yes. Is that
Those are closed.
7 copies for me?
We'll give him Jim's cut. Yeah, it's a loaner.
Okay, Peter, over to you.
So, I'm not sure whether we ended up with a resolution on the first one or not last time. You had mentioned the Home Depot stuff, but I can't remember whether we got a resolution out of that or not.
I guess my question is this in budget, or are we talking about a budget amendment? Because if we're talking about a budget amendment, let's stop discussion right now.
It's,
Cost of a few flags, we just absorb it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, spotlights rather.
Yeah.
Is the current plan now to go through every single item? Is that what we're doing?
I'm at your hands
Well, what
as
do
to
you
what you would like
What
to
do you
do.
think is the best way to attack this?
Well, I wouldn't mind going through it and at least the first 2 pages, getting through them all at least once. And then we'll have a work plan going forward, or know what's on the table, what's off the table, how things are to be disposed of or not.
The work that I did on these that's lost. We're not going to take that into account.
Which work?
Where I responded to the administration response column, providing further information or whatever.
Your responses to this, we can't just be going back and forth via email on all of these. If you've got responses to move forward with respect to an item, to speak to an item, then those should be, this is the form to put those things forward.
That's what I did. I put it in this form.
There's no place in this form for that. There's not an additional column for another back and forth. And then I'd have to, create another column for administration to have a response to your response. I think the request should be made if there's information that the administration can provide for the purposes of discussion by council or committee, then it's here, and then you have that discussion and decide what to do with it. If there's additional information that hasn't been captured on the sheet at that point, then it can be brought forward by any councillor as to additional considerations and their thoughts on what ought to be done with the matter. Then
But that's
council.
only verbal. So this will never get changed. This is cast in stone.
Well, I've added additional ones that came from various councillors.
Additional line items, but I'm talking about a given line item is cast in stone once it's written.
Pretty much, otherwise we go back and forth forever. There's no end date.
No, there's an end date when it's taken off the list.
In terms of how we discuss each of these items, if somebody's making a request for information or that something be done, this is the forum to discuss that. The initial request is made, administration puts in their 2 bits as to information on the matter, and then it gets discussed here.
And then it would get updated here.
No.
There will be a piece of this column will have a
So it
resolution.
will be updated here.
So the resolution could be, the information is received and you're not going to do anything, or the resolution could be, staff be directed to do something, and then you've got a resolution that exists that is staff's marching orders, more or less. So that would go to the resolutions tab, and that's where the follow-up is. So 3rd sheet down, we've got resolutions. So we've got some here, and then as they get done, then the 4th sheet is completed resolutions.
Why
So
do we
that-
need a completed resolution to follow it?
Well, I figured that you'd want to know when something's completed. I certainly want to know.
And then what is a preempted request?
Those are things that either don't require a resolution for one reason or another. Either it's already been done, it's been addressed by way of a customer service request through Public Works, it's the issue is come and gone, so it's moot. There's a variety of
So why
reasons
do we need
why.
to keep this sheet, these sheets?
Because there are a number of things on here that the requester would want to know whatever happened to that thing. So this at least tracks that information, and if there's things that still need to be followed up on, it gives me something that's in writing that I can go back and check on the status of something.
So Peter, I could beaver through this for 45 minutes.
45, that's generous.
I want to be out by 5.
Okay, let's go. So I suggest that the requester speaks to it, and I think it will come out in the wash in the end. So the first one is mine. This is what I call general feel-good cosmetic improvements to the village. I think they're all fairly obvious, so I will just call these, do we want to spend the kind of money that's mooted here on various things that have either been neglected, have never been thought about, should have happened long ago, for no other rationale than showing some pride in the village, picking up the trash. So that's the first one. There's also it's not a legal issue, but a protocol issue here. You're not supposed to fly the national flag in the dark.
I'm wondering about the $250. So, it's going to have to be done by an electrical company, and I don't think people come up for $250, do they? Do we have a more accurate estimate?
No, the mayor's suggestion was to get something from Home Depot for $250.
Yeah, I don't even know if it would cost that much. I mean, there's soffit lights out there.
I don't think you have a wire, then the wire has to be buried, right?
No, it would shine from the soffit onto the flagpole.
Soffit lights shine down.
This would be a new fixture, screwed into the soffit.
Can we say if it's 250, let's do it and move on?
Oh, well, if, unless explicit instructions are given as to expectation, it'll come out at 10 times that, and then it will be impossible. So, I'm quite prepared to just, if it's too difficult, drop it.
Why?
Because I've got better things to do than continually argue around the point why it would cost $250.
Well, okay, let's move on. So let's go.
Or do
Okay.
you want to put a
Dropping
limit
it?
on it? Say if it, we'll investigate, if it's under $500, staff will proceed.
Yes.
I'll give you a budget of $500 for me to do it and move on.
Okay, well, I'd be very surprised if that's what the number would come in as, but okay, fine. So yes, on that one.
So to recap,
Staff to investigate,
$500, staff to investigate.
proceed
If it's
if,
less, move.
proceed if less than $500.
All right, I want to start positive here, Carl, so you're on a roll now.
Okay, that's a good one. Thanks for that, Ron. Okay, the question was, can staff look into the feasibility of installing water meters at school and marina? The answer would have been yes or no. So I guess staff did look into it. I totally dispute the IMPs. I dispute anything in the IMP, but certainly the cost of $3,500 for a meter installed. We've had numbers over the course of the years between $800 and $3,500. But I'd like to know what it actually would cost, and then come back with a budget and say what it is. The reason is this is a data issue. two high water users, it would be just very useful to know how much water they do in fact use. Why? Because every time I talk to any resident about water usage, they say, well, you really need to do something about fill in the blank, school or marina, and I want to have data.
So the water bylaw would have to be amended for one thing, because it doesn't permit water metering at this point. And it's from 1971, so it should probably be amended in any event, or rewritten in complete total by the incoming new public works manager.
It explicitly forbids water metering?
It doesn't provide for it. You can't water meter under the bylaw.
Peter?
This is not for billing purposes. This is...
You're speaking towards Helen, I'm struggling to hear. Could you boom out?
Sorry.
Boom out.
Okay. Yeah, my understanding from speaking with Nikki was that this would require an amendment of our bylaw. I had a brief look and doesn't appear to provide for metering. I haven't gone and looked at metering bylaws of other municipalities in great detail yet, but I would agree that this would likely require an amendment of our bylaw, and the bylaw itself is very old, so should be...
Even though the expectation is not for billing purposes, it's just for data.
I'll have another look, but in any event, would council like staff to investigate what the actual cost would be for providing 2 meters at these locations, and then come back with that information, as well as information about what would be required in the way of changes to our bylaw?
Well, if it's not for billing, then what do we do with this information? So we know how much they're spending, what do we do with it?
There's the spending.
I mean, how much they're using.
We understand if they are using significant amount, maybe we need a different billing class.
So then it does relate to billing.
No, because we have flat rate billing. Right now, the school pays a different rate, and I believe the marina pays a different rate as well. Their own rate, right? It's a separate
Peter's
class.
right, though, ultimately, we're going to stumble on the bylaw here.
Yeah, we may very well need, may as well adapt the bylaw. So we don't meter, we're not saying you use 37.8 hectoliters of water. It's just to check if we're within the ballpark. They're paying too much, I don't know. You know, the marina, I don't know how much water they use.
These meters be able to be moved around?
No, they're kind of hardwired, hard installed. The cheap, accurate ones. There are clamp-on ones. We investigated them for the plants until it turned out we did actually already have inline metering at the plants. Those are more expensive and not as accurate, and don't really work for non-turbid water.
Well, if I could just say, to bring this to a bit of a close, that I think Peter's suggestion of doing the research to find out, then we can make an informed decision one way or the other, but that would be the first step of whatever we do.
Yeah, I'm not proposing that we say yes or no. I just understand the feasibility.
So staff to provide report.
Okay, so proceed. 2 for 2.
Cost and recommendation?
Okay, the next one should be quick. All I wanted to know was, is there a decimal point error in the zoning bylaw, and is there a quick fix for it? Otherwise, we have to go through a whole zoning bylaw change, which, as we know, is a bit of a scrum.
I don't believe there's a decimal point.
So you believe that it was council's intention to go to 2 acres?
I have nothing to suggest otherwise, and in any event would require an amendment of the zoning bylaw.
There's no way to fix a typo.
No, it's an amendment. Any way you slice it, it's an amendment. So it's a public hearing, and if you're going to go through all that, then we need to amend the bylaw anyways.
Okay, so that one's done.
Which is, I believe, part of the 2016 budget and planning consultant.
Yeah,
That was
that's a
one
whole
of the
different,
tasks.
that's a suite of
Yeah.
development
No,
bylaws.
but I'm just saying that it will be done, so.
Yeah. Okay, so the answer to number 9 is no, there was not a decimal point error.
So we can remove this?
Yes,
The answer is not no, there's not a decimal point error. The answer is that the issue with the zoning bylaw needs to be addressed as a whole, as part of the consultant's work on the suite bylaw.
Yeah, the only reason that I'd like to see if we could fix the zoning bylaw first is that we have 5 upcoming subdivision requests which only pertain to the zoning bylaw, and it's an administrative issue for staff to say yes or no on the subdivision request. But if we have to fix the zoning bylaw through channels, then we're going to have to do that pretty quick, because from what I understand, there's plenty of people. Just the background is, speaking to the building inspector, to Dave, Bowen has exactly the same zoning bylaw as us, changed at exactly the same time. I don't doubt that there was cross discussion between us and Bowen at the time. However, those are the only two municipalities that I have found that have a 2-acre minimum residential lot size, which is quite big, obviously.
So when is the plan to change the zoning bylaw? Is that somewhere in the works?
We budgeted, yeah, there's a planner budgeted.
It was one of the projects for the
this
planner
year?
that we budgeted, yeah. We put 30,000 in for a
So
planner.
that's what we would say to the people who are coming in with requests?
Yeah, well, it's not so much them. I would like us to be proceeding so that we can actually get a move on. I just will point out to you that when we subdivide a lot, we now have for the first time one new tax parcel. Previously, if somebody builds a house on a lot or demolishes it and builds a $10 million house, nothing changes on our tax base. Subdivision adds a parcel.
So could we not just change that part of the bylaw if we wished?
No, zoning bylaw needs public hearing.
Oh, okay.
It's not just
different than all the other.
it's different.
That's what you're
It's a
saying,
big
even
deal,
if it
huh?
was a typo, which we haven't confirmed
have
it
to go
is,
through that whole-
you still can't change it.
There's no quick fix. So that's all I wanted to know there. Okay, no quick fix. Good. So 9 can come out. It's a bigger project. 12. Arrange for 2 more outdoor water use signs for Brunswick Beach for installation by the end of April and take down end of September.
So I'm in the process of seeking quotes from the West Van Sign Shop through Public Works.
You found the new design.
I don't know if it's a new design or not. I was going to email it to all of you, or the IC. I'm not sure if the IC looked at it or what.
They did.
But I'll send that round.
Yeah.
And, but regardless, I don't think the cost would change significantly for tweaks in the design. So getting a cost for 3 metal signs of roughly the same size.
Yeah.
And then the other question for this is locations.
Okay, we may as well discuss that now. I mean, I agree with Helen that it's a bit much to have the thing plonked on top of our nice Welcome to Lions Bay sign. And also there will be the locations for Kelvin Grove and Brunswick Beach. But I think we leave that up to staff. I mean, my suggestion is, I was looking, where would we put the village entrance one? I don't know. I thought using it to obscure the water tank to a certain extent, but then you wouldn't see it if you were going down. And don't forget, it needs to be seen for people entering north and south.
You have to see it from either fork.
Yeah.
And
It's horrible.
Maybe we need more than 3, I don't know. I mean, we'd be guided by staff on that one. My main issue here was that it's a time issue. In fact, the sign is mandated to go up June 1 at level 1. Right now we're at level 0. But it would be very nice to have, well, we only have 1 sign right now and it's been there, it's semi-permanent, and it's been at level 0 since forever. The idea being, the IC's idea was that we would put one up 2 weeks before the launch date, which is June 1, so that people say, we're getting close. But Nikki and I worked through this was only ever a temp, and the designs changed slightly to make it based on commentary. And I sent you that. It was a hand mark.
I have a digital file that has 4 different designs on it.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, I'll be able to tell you the one that Nikki finally settled on if you could send those to me in draft format.
Sorry. I was thinking the entrance to the village, the central village, couldn't we just have signs like that on the opposite side of the road so you see it coming and going? And then it's away from the entrance sign as well. It means 1 extra sign as you...
That's actually where I was going. I think where it currently is, okay, you all got the scare tactic day 1 front. I think we're year 2, we're past that. We're thinking of something else now. I'd go to another sign, just place it so that all the access
See it.
see it and get it off the village sign.
It's only one aspect of informing people what the conservation level is as well. I mean, that goes out in email. And,
Driving around, you gotta be blind if you don't see them. So I'd just move them.
okay. Well, so the question is, there may be more than 3 required.
Right, I was just going to say, if you've got something like that, then you've got 2 signs in 1 spot.
Yeah.
But my further comment would be, or clarification request would be, when you're talking about coming in the central exit to right here, off the highway, if you're going northbound, you're coming and you see that sign straight ahead of you. If you're coming from the north, you're going southbound like I do every day, I come up that hill, I go underneath the bridge and I come up that hill, and as I'm coming up that hill, it's right there. I see it every day. So I'm not sure that like it's in probably the most visible location it can be in.
Yeah.
Right now, and
I mean, I
moving
see it
it
coming
to
to work,
the
yeah.
berm where you exit if you're coming north, you're not gonna see it if you're coming the way I come every day. So really where it is now, or up where I make a left turn, go across the bridge to come to work every day, right there on the bridge would be another spot where everybody would see it, or at that corner where there's now,
Unless you're
what
going
looks
down
like
to
a bus
Lions Bay
stop.
Avenue every time and you don't come up to the post office. Yeah, where it is good, but maybe you can just get off the log and move it 20 feet down.
And that's, to me,
But that's
gotta
an
go up the
operational,
log.
yeah.
Just
prominent that it is,
off the log.
off the log.
The first thing you said was, that's ugly.
It's
And
like-
you're right, but it was imperative. Okay, so
So staff to come back with.
this was as much a reminder as anything. I mean, because there's been a sort of a change, and it seemed to me that unless we actually started moving on this, we're not going to have. There's a higher motive to all of this. It's to make Brunswick Beach and Kelvin Grove feel like part of Lions Bay. That's why it says "Welcome to Lions Bay" on top, by the way, because there's this slight suggestion of we used to be better off without Lions Bay. Everything has an ulterior motive.
So off the log.
Off the log. 16, can we vacuum up needles rather than sweep the roads? This was simply because sweeping the roads, pushing the needles off the edge of the road, doesn't actually solve anything. My supplemental ask on this one was, Miller Cap uses our water to sweep the highway. Can we ask them to run their machine here twice a year?
And Nikki's response was they provide us with so many favors all the time that she would not recommend doing that.
Okay. What are the favors, as a matter of interest?
I don't know.
Anybody know?
It would be operational, I'm sure.
I think they're probably supplying the 3,000 gallon tanker for the 240 Ocean Beach burn.
Right. That would be one thing.
Usually no charge for that. I don't know what the other ones though.
Yeah, I'm thinking something that has a little wider benefit for the village.
That tanker's pretty important. I would suggest that's
Well, that's
pretty.
if we're going for the burn, which is a discussion yet to be had. But you know, pushing the needles off the side of the road doesn't work. My suggestion has been that we use a proper vacuum sweeper. The Miller Cap one is available. West Van has one. Do we want to spend the money to vacuum the streets?
Let's find out how much.
Yeah, well, the Public Works Manager can solicit quotes from contractors to do the same work with a different machine. Just proceed on that one.
So, sorry, you'd like staff, is it recommendation that staff pursue a quote? Okay.
Some of these things are just service level increases. It'll cost money, yeah. If it's $1,000, I'm all for it. Ron?
Thank you. And Peter, thank you for amending mine. And thank you for the response on the right-hand side. There was a couple of other things, if I could add to this. I hope this is the right forum. So I think in this is that the maintenance of the washroom is there, the garbage is there. It embarrasses me to tell you that a resident buttonholed me on insects inside the washroom, which I don't have knowledge of, but
Flying ants? Ants?
water bugs or something like that, I don't know what they are. He offered to send us all pictures, I said no. So I'm going to just, if I can leave insect eradication as one of the projects on this.
Okay, I think you had something about monthly though, because you know, generally speaking, when you spray for ants
Well, you
or
do it
whatever you
one
spray
shot.
for, it's
Yeah.
once a year kind of
Okay,
thing.
so, well, I'd be happy if you gas the crap out.
Well, we do have a pesticide and herbicide bylaw, so we have to be careful there.
I'm sure we will be. So I think, just to recap, it was, So what we have here is the maintenance, the maintenance, that is the cleanliness of the washroom, the garbage on the beach, the insect, the one-shotter, and I was hoping that the washrooms could be painted before the long weekend, the May long
Yeah,
weekend.
that's, I think that's,
Is it
request is further down.
further down? Okay, thank you.
So I did have a conversation with Public Works about this item.
Mhm.
And I also had one with Nikki before she left. And the general view was that really the issue should be solvable with appropriate garbage, recycling, and other facilities set up in a way that, with signage, in a way that it's clear what people are supposed to do with their stuff. And that one of those signs ought really to say, you pack it in, you pack it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's step one. But that everything be, one idea was to have everything in a central location, on a pad, where, you know, you can come in with a hose and spray it all down,
Mm-hmm.
clean it, because I understand that wasps are a big issue. And that currently you've got garbage and other litter bins all over the place in that little park. If you have them, which results in messes all over and wasps all over. If you have it in one location that people, you know, they come as they're leaving, that's where they take their stuff, they drop it off, they put it in the right bins, and that you have sufficient things there for them so that and then maybe we can just set it up so that on Monday it all gets taken out. Because I suspect that, you know, getting Smithright or anyone else to come in on a weekend is going to be exorbitant. And that other solutions perhaps can be found which would be more cost effective and more efficient.
I'll look forward to seeing what they are.
Okay.
How about just putting in more bins?
That's what Peter said.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
part of it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sufficiently
So-
Putting it
so
on
there-
one
the-
place, because now it's just there's a few on top and then one on.
One right in the middle of the pathway to the
So there's
shelter,
three.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could quite see putting those, I think maybe we need to make a decision on that swing set that's there in the middle, that nobody uses. Well, I would say nobody, but very few people use it. I believe there was some question about its safety for sticking out bolts and so on, which I think have been remediated now. Because potentially that could just go and that can be the amenity area. But that's detail. You don't want too many trash cans front and center. Certainly where the one trash can is, the lower trash can is a very poor location. You actually have to squeeze past it to get to the barbecue area.
But
and
that
the
one's
boats.
always the fullest.
Well, because
Well.
it's closest, but yeah. I mean, I could see putting that a little bit out of the way to get the wasps slightly moved away as well.
So staff will explore options and all options
Yeah.
and come back with recommendations.
Yeah, I think you're right that getting Smith right here is going to not feasible really. So we may have to bite the bullet on just having more trash cans. Okay, so that one's proceeding, right?
Yeah.
So the next one, 18, the idea here was to light Christmas trees. I've shown you pictures. I don't know which tree to answer questions. Would the lights be on throughout the year? No. Options for power source? Don't know. Solar? Unlikely. Not enough power. Electrical backup? No. A tree in mind? No. Neighbor impacts? Let's put it somewhere where there's no neighbors. Consultation? I've consulted adequately for my satisfaction that people would like to see a designated tree rather than having some colored lights from Kmart draped on the bush. But what does council think?
Having just done accent lights at my driveway on 2 trees, a lot of the Four Seasons bright lights, white, classy look. It was pretty thrifty for the number that you've got here. You'd get a lot of work done. The components are Canadian Tire components largely, and you got a plug, it can happen. So really you need to decide on the trees and the individual, which I can give 2 names, who would do it. Flat cost.
I've also found guys driving around, the guys who were doing
Yeah.
Caulfield Christmas lights. Yeah, I mean, it's just a question, is that something we want to do? And which tree?
It might also be bargaining unit work.
Fine. Well, yeah, okay.
What,
Fairly specialized, getting permanent lights mounted on a tree, but yeah.
Maybe. Anyways, that just a heads up that
Yeah.
maybe not.
Mine look pretty permanent.
Yeah, no, these would be permanent.
Yeah.
Is there a committee or group that exists who could look into ideal locations or, basically pros and cons of any given locations?
Well, that would be the community committee.
No, it's
No.
quasi-public art, that's
no, actually, there
quasi-public
is
art.
Louis, I think Louis Peterson is starting some kind of he's been talking to Simon and discussing something to do with landscape, so this might fall under it.
Well, to the extent it will be sanctioned by council, yeah,
I
depending what it is they have in mind.
So
Sure.
they could be tasked to,
Tree committee doesn't have that
No.
jurisdiction at the
but
present
the
time.
tree committee was maybe going to evolve into
Trees, views, and landscape.
That could take a while, the way we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But we can ask Louis to sort of give us a
again,
report.
most of these requests are
Feel good.
feel good, prosperity,
Well, I mean,
care.
certainly you could find a tree at Brunswick, you could find one at Kelvin Grove, I'm sure we could find one in Central or two. So, and the same thing with our water signs, I mean, it spreads the love around.
But for myself, I wouldn't want to spend $1,500 right now on lights. It would have higher priority
Yeah, I
issues.
mean, I really don't like the aesthetic of the colored lights, 20-year-old, the big ones, draped on bushes down here, but maybe other people do. I'm fine with it. Whatever the community, we're the representatives. Do we want a lit Christmas tree, like the one I showed you? We don't have that kind of tree. Well, there's a tree right here on the corner.
I look at them every morning.
I say yes, but not for $1,500.
Okay, well, I don't know what it would cost to bring a man out.
Do you want to put it to next year's budget?
Fine.
It'll be before Christmas, so we could leave this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, can we take it out? It's just not, to see
So-
something that's been lurking around since,
So something that I just want to comment before we leave this one is, as staff, not saying it's not a good idea, simply looking for you guys to say, to provide direction, and whether or not staff should spend the time investigating this when we have
yeah.
a lot of things to do. So you guys have to decide its priority and et cetera, whether we spend the time on it or not, or are there other people,
on my
such
list.
as community members, who can do that?
Yeah, I mean, Enmore, Belcarra, Bowen, Whistler, Squamish, Pemberton, North Van, I could go on. They all do this.
As fate would have it, I'll be doing another 2 trees at the McLaughlin Fantasy Gardens just at Remembrance Day, so I'll have the contractor there. I'll have a pretty firm estimate that I can refer to staff.
So
And
we can
I'll
say no need for staff to,
do anything.
do anything
It's a
for now.
budget piece.
Yeah,
But-
it may very well be a community, I mean, my ultimate goal is to have dynamic color lighting under the underpass and up the channel. Just, remember I showed you under the TransLink bridges?
Yes.
So just final comment, if you're going to get a quote, Remembrance Day or in November sometime, might be an idea to have a tree picked out, or trees picked out, so that you can send the contractor to the appropriate place to give you a price.
How about if I defer to my Councillor Watterson, who drives around the village more than anybody I know, to pick out a couple of test trees?
They've got to have power close by.
Well, makes her assignment a little harder.
And don't forget, it needs to probably switch off at 11.
Yep.
Let's put it on hold.
Hey, you're picking the councillor who I don't believe is supporting
Yeah,
this.
I think Helen is not the one.
Not wedded to this light situation.
Okay, for now, I guess we'll just put staff to take no action.
Yep, no action. Okay, I think we managed to get one page. If we get one page done, I think that's enough. I hate to be the one that keeps requesting this, but after begging people to add to this, I was the only one. So here we go.
Councillor Watterson added.
Okay, you want to do yours, Helen?
So we finished it off this page.
All right, let's
I'm not
finish this.
finished. Yeah.
Okay, temporary PRV. I wanted to know what the plan was. What's the plan? And it's been reported, so the plan is to keep it. Is staff satisfied that that kiosk is not too close to the roadway? It's very close. When I spoke to Public Works guys about it, to Will and Garth, they said, yes, it's very close to the roadway, but the road is very wide there. I don't know if that actually is a provision in our highway bylaw.
Are we kind of restricted by where the kiosk goes as to where the PRV is?
Well, yes, but the choice was to put it above ground as a temporary thing. Now it's being turned into a permanent thing. But should it actually not have been buried in the first place? No, because it was a water contingency. You know, it was spent under the $60,000 contingency last year. It turns out it's such a useful thing, which of course that was in the original 2006 water plan. It said we need a PRV there, so we got it. So really, the actual question is, do we need to budget burying that, making it subgrade? Which is not an insubstantial amount of work. I watched when they were connecting it. You know, they had to tap into the main, they had to build a U, put the PRV in with valves and bypass and all that stuff. So that's all accessible in that kiosk right now. But I don't know. Is that kiosk really a permanent installation in the village? And if it is, it needs to look a little better than it looks right now. I know.
How about the vinyl wrap for this year and then boost it over to another year when we haven't already spent our money? If you want to dig it in.
I'd prefer not to. I'd prefer not to spend the money. If it's okay like it is, within all kinds of highway regulations and codes, I'm fine with it where it is. It's a lot easier to maintain when it's in a kiosk, obviously, than having to go down into a vault. So my understanding was the vinyl wrap was within Nikki's budget. She had initially mentioned that she wanted to use a school art motif, but I didn't support that because it's got nothing to do with the school. It happens to be adjacent to the school, I suppose, but I was thinking about a matching woodland pattern, and then I thought maybe that's dangerous because people won't be able to tell the difference between the kiosk and the woodland, and they'll drive into it.
Well, you'll kill two birds with one stone, it'll get moved, but by a car.
Does that put us back to the school theme?
Well, Uta,
Well, I wouldn't
on the
support
Arts
school.
Council said that perhaps we can use the photographs that were from the I Love Lions Bay photo contest, and she was willing to organize the design of it.
It's not a notice board. I really don't like the idea of using that as people, hey, what a bang! I want it to just blend in. So
Blend
I've seen,
in, but not blended.
so North Van has one with river rocks. It looks terrible. West Van uses a woodland motif, but not the local woodland. Sort of birch trees when the local is grass, and grass when the local is pine trees. So it is contrasting, but at least it doesn't look like an ex-BC Hydro box with a
So who
sticker.
who is, how do we move forward with
It's
this?
a massive public art opportunity.
No, but
It's
Carl's
just
very
like the water
specific.
tower over here.
Yeah, the water tower. No, I don't want to see that as a bulletin board or a
No, public art. I don't see it as a bulletin board.
no, but I mean as a display of public art. It's municipal furniture.
I lean towards the vinyl wrap if we got it in the public works budget already. Let's go with that. Can't be.
Just leave it to Public Works to decide what the right one is.
So get a quote and also maybe look into a couple of no-post barriers so that somebody can't back into it.
I think that might be a good idea as well. Yeah, that's well, not no posts because that is already pretty ugly. No posts will make it even worse.
I mean the steel posts.
Yeah.
That, the vertical 2 steel posts that they use for protecting hydro equipment.
Well, I think maybe it would behoove us to make sure that it meets all highway codes, not highway code, not our highway bylaw, highway code.
But the vinyl wrap that Public Works was investigating, does that have a design, or are we just talking a plain? What?
I think
When you say leave it
There's,
to-
there's multiple designs, yeah.
I
As
think
said,
there was planning to be a design on it.
So there's standard ones that maybe we could just choose one of this, whatever is available.
Yeah, maybe. No, that I'd be happy to run by you too. But yeah, I don't want to see it as children's art. It's inappropriate.
I'm sure there's standard designs.
Well, the big value.
Tiger skin.
Yeah, but the advantage of the woodsy sort of things is it discourages graffiti artists. And I'm afraid if you put children's pictures on it, it may encourage them.
Yeah,
And yet they haven't done anything to it so far.
Country blessings.
people are whizzing by there too fast. Okay, so
So I'll get a
Action.
quote on a vinyl wrap and 2
Yeah.
steel posts to protect it, check the designs available and report back.
yeah, so report back on the designs available, so we can look at the catalog.
Well, on the whole thing, on the designs, the cost, et cetera, et cetera.
Beauty.
And then you can decide if you want to spend that or bury it. But we won't have a cost on burying it, so unless you instruct me. to
No,
get that
that'll
cost.
be a major item, so we'd
Okay.
have to budget that at sometime in the future. Okay, so
Yeah, it would just be, but, yeah, okay.
moving on, 21. Please report budget impact of changes to public service levels. I sent an email long ago, it was to do with stuff. It's moot.
So it's been answered. No impact unless change in staffing levels, otherwise it's simply a question of priorities and having time to get it done or not.
Yeah, okay, so,
Yeah, and the service level report has been brought forward, so it's done.
okay, good, thanks. Okay, take it out. 21's done. 22. Uh,
A question about that. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just when you said changes the wording to the SOFI, I wasn't sure if you meant literally the SOFI, the Statement of Financial Information, because it's very prescriptive in terms of it's dictated by the charter, the wording. If you meant something else.
I did
when
mean
you
that.
said
I sent you an email about it some time ago. It was to do with adding notation in the list of payees as to who they were. Because, you know,
Okay.
it would say ABC company, oh, that happens to be our lawyer, but nobody knows that.
Okay, yep, no, we can look into that.
So it's essentially adding a column to that list of payees.
Yeah.
And there were a few other ones. Again, just to provide
No.
information to people.
No, that's a good idea. Even if we just do it for the SOFI that we present at council, we may not be able to include it in the one we submit, but we did something similar at West
Yeah,
Vancouver.
but they
We
don't read
just-
that. I'm
Yeah,
talking
we
about
just
ours.
described, yeah.
So I think that was a major one. There were a few other small, more than cosmetic, less than impactful. I can search out
It's
there.
basically just the wages. We,
It was more the vendor list.
yeah, because there's not many components of it, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. The two main pieces are the remuneration, which gives name and amount, and the suppliers, and yes, we could add a description.
Yeah, I mean, you know, North
The
Construction,
service was-
$380,000. What's that? Well, we know, but
What
the village doesn't know.
we know, they don't.
Okay. Right,
So that's all?
So Pam, you
I just wanted more information in terms of,
Groovy?
so I
Okay,
will,
so is that done now that you know? You will
um,
bring it forward as in the course of events?
yeah, I guess we can add it to the
Yeah.
SOFI at least for the,
Okay, 22's done.
we'll have to do it, SOFI's
Oh,
not
you
due
still
till
have, yeah,
June
but
30th.
it can come off the IRR, it can move into the completed.
So what we're doing today, though,
Don't
is
emphasize that.
all of these go-forwards that we're coming up with today are recommendations to council who can pass one motion saying as recommended.
As recommended, yeah. Well, I mean, the question here was, can changes to wording of the
The
report be
recommendation
accommodated?
is to add a
The answer is
description
yes.
of the suppliers to the SOFI. I'm saying, at a
there's
minimum, I
others.
will do that for the, yeah, I'm just, if you think of what the others are, maybe.
No, I sent you an
let me
email.
know.
I can re-seek it out.
Yeah, maybe we seek it out, because
Okay?
we seek it out and resend it.
You can't say Sophie changes in your search? I will.
Okay.
I don't.
Usually, there was more than one thing in the emails you send me, so that may not have been the title.
Yeah, that's valid, okay.
So if there is more, Carl, you'll restrict it to this one narrow piece?
Yeah, I know this, I don't want the whole email again. I want an edited email with just the one thing about the SOFI.
Okay,
24 has already been discussed and dealt with.
yes, fine. Okay, is that your 45 minutes?
We've got change, we're good.
Okay.
Were we going to talk about Councillor Watterson?
Yes.
Or,
Councillor Waterson is next. Writing down the list. Helen, yours is 98.
98.
98.99.
Yes, I just wanted to, I think actually you even, Peter brought this up at, earlier on, wondering why the office hours were as they were. So I was wondering, is there any way we could increase them so that they're more, so that they're more user-friendly? Because a lot of residents have said, well, when I work. If I work, I can't get to the office.
We could certainly review the hours that the office is open and examine things like availability for residents and cost of changing hours if we're going to increase them, for
Or
example,
maybe we shift
on
one day
Wednesdays.
to opening later or something like that to accommodate residents that do work, that are working.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at that and come back with a report to council. Just an offhand thought is, with respect to, starting later and going later, would be that I think it's the case that when we currently stay open later on Tuesdays when we have a council meeting, our experience has not been that there's been a lot of uptake on that, even though the office is open later.
Do people know that it's open?
Yeah.
So it's an official office
Yeah,
opening
yeah.
hours? So what are we open, Tuesday it's open till?
Well, we don't change the office hours, but it's advertised regularly in the village update that on council meeting, we're open late. 'Cause the other one we wondered about, this was being open on Wednesday, because we are closed Wednesday, and we
yeah,
could look at the
so,
feasibility of that. Because in general, municipalities, I don't know of a municipality that, it says standard hours are 8:30 to 4:30 for most municipalities, or 9 to 4:30. I mean, I think there's an expectation, like any business, really. I mean, there's an expectation if you need to do something, you do have to do it during the day. There's not too many things that people, anyway, we'll address this in the report. Like, I thought it was more, you were addressing more the Wednesday. I hadn't realized it was staying later.
It was a bit of both.
in the
I'm
evenings.
wondering
Okay.
why we're closed Wednesday.
But does the rest of council want to give a little bit of guidance there in terms of staying open late? I mean, I tend to agree with Pam that, businesses are open at certain times, as are municipalities. If you can't handle it, well, you're going to have to take time off work.
What time is the front office staff actually in the office? What is their working hours?
They work in 8-hour days, so Fran tends to come in closer to 10, and then she'll stay until, if I do the math, 5:30. And then Susan will come in a bit earlier and leave around 5. Because the important thing to remember, and we'll address this in the staff report, I mean, I wondered myself why the office was closed on Wednesdays, but it does provide, because Susan and Fran do so much more than just the front counter, they do a lot of other work, and Wednesday is their day to get a lot of that work done. So when you're open, you're drawn away from that. But that being said, that is part of the job. So there'll be more than just a financial cost of paying a little bit of extra money, because right now we don't always have someone in on a Wednesday. We don't budget for Fran and Susan to be full-time. Their budget is a 0.9 FTE, so that's working some Wednesdays. But it's also their ability to get work done. Like
So no one
Susan
works
is the
on
backup.
Wednesday, so we don't have.
No, we always have someone in on Wednesday.
So we do have a front office staff on Wednesday.
Yes, usually, most Wednesdays. What I'm saying is that's sort of their day. With it being closed, they get a lot of other work done. So it's something we would address in a staff report. But it would be, I'm assuming it's about opening Wednesdays and then perhaps changing the hours that we're open.
Because I just think perhaps the Tuesday, when we are open late, maybe people just don't know about it, and the fact that it's open late only when there's a council meeting. So it's not every Tuesday, it's every other Tuesday
Nobody's
specifically.
going to pay
Yeah.
attention.
We do advertise it though, and some people are aware of it. But
So just back to the front counter staff, they're 0.9 FTE. That's 4.5 days a week.
yes, pretty much. So we budget them for being here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and sometimes on the Wednesday.
Together.
No, just one of them here on the Wednesday. And it usually ends up being Susan, because as the building inspector gets busier, she's his admin support, so she does a lot of work for Dave on the Wednesday.
Yeah, but I mean, so we have both front office counter.
We always
people.
have a front office counter staff in her most Wednesdays.
So the two
Just
of them
one.
make
No, I'm talking
The
about
two-
the rest of the week.
The two
So
of them make
they're
up
both
one.
0.9 FTE.
No,
No.
combined,
To
they're
combined.
0.9. What I meant was
Okay.
combined, they're not one. So we
Gotcha.
don't. So there would be a slight budget implication if we did open on Wednesdays. And
I got you.
someone here. We could do a staff
I'd like to know,
report.
because I think it'll be, when people ask, I can actually come up with the information on why we do what we do. And how, maybe if there's any possibility that we could increase customer service without increasing budget too much, that we might consider it.
Yeah, more to the point than people showing up late. How many people go crashing into the door on Wednesday? How often do you hear that door handle rattle?
We get a few knocks, and we often answer it. like depending on who it is. I mean, it's not like we,
Yeah, depending on who it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
No wonder I can't get in on a Wednesday.
it's
So
these
then-
little peephole we look through. Do we open the door?
Because then I wonder in general, how, you know, how busy is that office? So for it to be open, does it take away that much time from work that's needed to close it on Wednesday? So
Yeah, I mean, it's something to look at. Sometimes it does, because the other thing is the phone calls, right? It goes usually to voicemail on Wednesdays. That's just a small component of what they do, the front desk. They do a lot of other things. But that's not to say, I mean, I'm not expressing opinion either way. Like, I think the biggest change we could make would be to open Wednesdays.
It'd be
I think.
nice
Be
to
open
make a
Monday
little
to
change.
Friday.
any kind of change. Okay, and then the next one,
What's
yes.
your timing that would make you happy?
Peter, how
Ann?
soon?
Year-end budget. Did you want it this year? Just, I'm thinking maybe a month. Would
Yeah,
a
we
month
gotta
be
get
We have
enough?
to
through.
have a report on this.
Yeah, that's what I
don't-
mean, to
we
have a
don't to
report within a
implement
month.
something.
Normally it would be faster, but this really is probably the most insane time for
Okay.
finance.
Yeah,
right
we've got to
now.
get past that, a month and a half, well,
Month and a half.
there's a month enough time because we'll still be,
That's true.
yeah.
First week of June?
Yeah,
Okay.
first week of June.
Oh, look, I have a deadline. First. And then I think my number 99, Peter, you said you will,
Yeah, I should have written, can bring a report to the next CSC. It's,
so the next one? I mean, the one
yeah,
coming up?
I'd like to
Okay,
force my own hand.
okay.
So that would be May 3rd?
Yeah, subject to other things that might fall on my plate as a result of today's meetings.
I took the lights, Christmas tree lights off your plate.
Thank
Actually,
you.
They were never on.
I was wondering, the May 3rd CSC meeting is actually the presentation by Bill Cox, the auditor of the financial statements. So it's a pretty full agenda.
Hmm.
So the one after that?
Maybe the one after that. I know you wanted to get it done, but
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
trying to keep the agenda pretty open just for the financial statements on May 3rd. And also the third readings of the bylaws, tonight's bylaws.
Okay, so May 17th.
Okay.
Okay, Ron, 101.
Thank you, 101. So Peter, again, thank you for putting this on. Just for clarity, the painting, that would be walls and floors?
I don't know. Okay,
The
you're
floors look worse than the walls, and I understand you can paint that
So this is
in
interior.
interior.
Walls
yes.
and, walls and floors.
Walls and floors.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed floors, so that's good to know.
And if I can throw my broad brush on the beach, there's work that the Public Works does in their normal schedule, which Carl got his fingers smacked on last year for moving rocks or something like that.
Logs, I think it was.
Logs
You
of
moved-
rocks.
You move rocks as well?
I didn't move
No,
anything.
it was flagging or something like that.
I made a mark, which has never been done before, so I don't know how that's bargaining unit.
Would it be okay, Peter, if Works gave me a heads up and I could
Meet them there to point.
perhaps work
Pointing
with
might
them on
also
that?
be-
Would that be okay?
Sorry, say it again?
I guess, what is it, the seasonal cleanup of the beach for the summer?
Yep,
If Works could give me a shout so I could maybe
provide your
represent
feedback,
council, shall we
your
say?
input at that point.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Just for your edification, you're not going to believe this, how we move the logs is that we have to wait for spring tide, and they bring a crane, barge-mounted crane, because we are no longer allowed to drive on the beach with gas-powered equipment. And they pick the logs off from the sea, and then they put them on their barge, and then they go and dump them somewhere on another island.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Peter.
So, Ron, going back to yours, are they just painting it the same color, white?
White is a beautiful color.
Municipal green, surely.
White for the walls and the floors are gray, but
And not outside. And you don't want to go for something heroic like a Florida, south of Florida pistachio or mauve
my
or.
colleagues knackered me on the budget, so I'll just leave
Why
it
is
as
white the cheapest? You can't go from mint
No,
green?
they tint the paint for free.
I recommend we
Oh.
move on.
Okay.
Well, but again, I think it's a valid point. Oh, sure, we can do white, but in Florida, or you name the place, they actually painted a slightly more festive color.
Just so that they know we painted it. Otherwise, it's like, oh, you've done nothing.
That's
Actually,
the wet paint sign.
You know what?
We keep it up all the
You know
time.
what, Peter, could you stretch the love on that one too for, because I'll talk to the Arts Council for paint color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that fine?
Who says it is? You want?
And they, I believe, well, there was some alcohol involved last time, they said yes. Done.
Any paint spill?
It
Minty
wasn't
green.
me, it was the other side.
Mint green is, yeah, mint green.
Thank
Love
you.
it. Okay.
Done.
Ron, I just remind you that the other issue around the beach, which is simple to remediate, was the fact that the grass died last summer, despite the fact that you were allowed to water because it was a public park. When I asked Nikki, she assured me that the sprinkling was working, so I want to know, why did the grass die?
Well, I'll extend my patrol from the
Yeah.
watershed down to the beach then.
Can you do that? Because clearly the sprinkling was not working. Okay, you got that?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, I propose that we move on. I think we've knocked off a good few of these. So Peter, my goal is to have eventually this thing down to current items only, rather than ever increasing, impossible to knock off lists. So I think we're doing well. I think we've got some good resolution. Okay, just as to format. These are ones that require resolutions, the one that says resolutions.
Those are resolutions that have already been passed.
Yeah, okay, so they're done. I thought so, because,
They're not done, they're just resolutions.
yeah. And I don't mean complete. Completed resolutions is you're telling us that
Yeah. Now
they have been done.
Yeah.
So are we going to blanket these tonight, Peter?
Pardon me?
For this front page, are we going to blanket these tonight? Or,
What we'll do is we'll just have, we'll add a resolutions item to the regular agenda that has
action?
everything in action with respect to all these things that we just
And then
discussed.
refer to it.
And then you can presumably pass that, and
Okay,
then
thank you.
it'll be done.
Good, then we should scoot out of here so you've got time to do that.
So sorry, Peter, resolutions mean they already have a resolution.
Yes,
Okay.
which is stated on that page.
Okay, good. Moving on. Thank you. Public questions and comments at 16:24. That was 45 minutes, close enough. Deirdre? We're moving to item number 10, closed council Council Strategy Committee meeting. That the meeting be closed to the public under the authority of the Community Charter, Section 91B, C, and L. May I have a motion? A second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. The meeting is now closed. Thank you. Nothing to report out. I'll ask for a motion of adjournment. And a second. All in favour of adjournment? Opposed? That carries. Meeting adjourned. See you back here at 7.